Unit 4, Formative 1, Day 1, 0 and negative exponents. Alright, first we got to start with what an exponent is. Remember an exponent? Like we said yesterday, it's the little number up above the letter or the number. Okay, so this first one is a to the 0. Okay, a to the 0 equals 1 because anything, and make sure you're writing this down, anything to the 0 power is 1. Okay, you have to remember that. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Okay, now a to the negative 1, what happens is you can't have negative exponents. Negative exponents need to be what we would call flipped. Okay, so a to the negative 1 is really over a 1. Okay, so we kind of make them into fractions. And if it's negative on top, that means it's positive on the bottom. So that negative 1 is attached to the a. So we're going to move the a to the bottom, and that negative 1 becomes positive 1, and all that's left on top is a 1. Okay, so if nothing's left on top, it's automatically a 1. Okay, so a to the negative 1 is the same thing as 1 over a to the 1. Okay, same thing if m to the negative 1 is on the bottom. Okay, if it's negative on the bottom, it means it's positive on the top. So we would move that m to the top because remember that exponent is attached to the m. Okay, and there's nothing left on the bottom, so really it's just a 1. Okay, so if it's negative on the top, we need to move it to the bottom. If it's negative on the bottom, we need to move it to the top. So number 1, 4 to the negative 2. Well, we can't do this right now because we can't calculate negative exponents without getting decimals. Okay, so we need to move this, since it's on top, we need to move it to the bottom. So that 4 to the second is now on the bottom. Okay, and remember, once it moves to the bottom, it's positive. There's nothing left on top, so it's a 1. Okay, well 4 to the second is 16, so this becomes 1 over 16. So our answer is 1 over 16. Okay, number 2, 5 to the 0. Remember, anything to the 0 power equals 1. Okay, number 3, negative 6 to the negative 2. So now we need to look at this real quick. You got to look at that negative sign right here. It's in parentheses, which means this exponent goes to the negative 6. Not just the 6, but also the negative. Okay, so when we rewrite this, we need to move that negative 6 to the bottom, and now it's to the positive second power, not just the negative second power. Okay, there's nothing left on top, so it's a 1. Well, negative 6 to the second means negative 6 times negative 6, which is positive 36, so our answer is 1 over 36. Okay, number 4, negative 2 to the negative 3. Now we need to look at this one. See how that negative sign is not in parentheses with that 2? Which means it does not, that exponent does not go to the negative sign. So really it's kind of like this, where the negative's on the outside. Okay, so the 2 is the only thing that it's attached to, so the only thing we're going to move is a 2. So we keep the negative on top, which makes it a negative 1, and then on the bottom you have 2 to the positive 3. Okay, 2 to the third, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, so this becomes negative 1 over 8. Okay, so remember that negative sign, if it's not in parentheses with it, it's not attached. Let's try some more. Number 5, 4x to the negative 5. You have to be careful because that 4 is not attached to the exponent. Okay, the exponent only deals with the x, so the only thing you can move is the x. So it's kind of like the x to the negative 5 is in parentheses. So since it's a negative exponent on top, we need to move it to the bottom. Okay, so on top you're left with the 4, and on the bottom you now have x to the positive 5. Then you ask yourself, can I simplify any more? No, nothing goes into 4 and x, so that's my answer. Okay. Number 6, m to the negative 3, n to the 0. Okay, the first thing you need to recognize is n to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1, which really just cancels it out. Okay, it's a 1. That m to the negative 3 needs to move to the bottom, so you have 1 over m to the positive 3. Okay. Number 7, 4m to the negative 2 over n. That negative 2 is only attached to the m. Okay, so the 4 can stay on top because there's no negative exponent with it. The n is on the bottom. There's no negative exponent, so it doesn't need to move. But the m needs to move to the bottom. So you have m, and it's to the positive second power now. Okay, so the only things you need to move are if they have negative exponents. So in your answer, you cannot have negatives, and you cannot have to the 0 power. Couple more. Number 8, 15x to the negative 2, y to the third, over 2w to the negative 4. Okay, this can look complicated, but you take it step by step. So first let's look at our numbers. 15 and 2. Can you simplify 15 and 2? No. So we can start writing our answer. 15 stays on top, 2 stays on the bottom. That x right here is to the negative 2, which means it needs to move to the bottom. So we have x to the second goes to the bottom. That y to the third is positive, so that stays where it is, which is on top. On the bottom you have w to the negative 4. Well, since it's negative on the bottom, it needs to move to the top. So really all this is moving some stuff around. Okay, so our answer is 15y to the third, w to the fourth, over 2x to the second. Alright, last one, number 9. 6x to the 0, y to the negative 7, over 5 to the negative 1, w to the second. Okay, you can start with your numbers. This 5 to the negative 1 needs to be moved to the top with the 6, and when it's moved, it becomes 5 to the first. And this 6 and the 5, they're actually multiplying. Okay, so you have 6 times 5 to the first. That x to the 0 cancels because anything to the 0 power is just 1. That y to the negative 7 needs to be moved to the bottom, so y to the positive 7 is on the bottom. That w squared is fine, so it can stay on the bottom. Okay, now on top, 6 times 5 is 30, so you get 30 over y to the 7th, w to the second. Okay, there were 9 problems. You need to have 9 problems in your notes. Okay, I will not accept it if you don't have every problem written down. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.